We really can focus on putting our own meanings into these infrastructures, and this is what the railway workers are doing today. Hello, my name is Tekla Aslanishvili. I'm an artist, filmmaker and essayist, and my work deals with the relationship between governments, people and their land through the lens of large-scale infrastructure projects.
Okay, let's talk about a state in a state, your newest production. One state is Georgia and the other state is obviously a railroad company that is working on a trail which is from Azerbaijan to Turkey.
So yes, the film is following the construction and disruption of the road Baku-Tbilisi-Kars, which is connecting the oil fields in Baku with Kars in eastern Turkey through Georgian capital Tbilisi. So this railway is a link that has been constructed after the collapse of Soviet Union, and it has this kind of like component of the geopolitical sabotage in it. So political aspect of this railway link is way higher than the economic one, at least at this point. But the idea of a state in a state that is showcased in the film is coming from previous times. So when we were working on this film, first of all, my collaborator, Evelina Gambino, was researching this project earlier than me for her academic work. And when she went to Gyumri in Armenia, she talked with the veteran railway workers, and one of them, I think it was head of the Gyumri station, mentioned that the railway was what made Soviet Union equal. That really drew my attention. I was like not fully understanding what that meant. So when I started to go on my own on research trips, all of the railway workers were repeating this idea of a railway being a state within a state. What they meant by it is that the railway was a state in a state because it had its own internal infrastructures. Like it was not sharing the phone codes, for example, with the state codes. It had its own phone codes, it had its own also social infrastructures, like its own kindergartens and schools and so on. So there was certain kind of autonomy and organization, logistical organization of life that included railway workers transnationally or like between different Soviet republics that was organized in a better way. So they had this very strong identity of railway workers and this feeling of, you know, friendship and comradeship and so on. So this is why it was kind of considered as a state in a state. And after the collapse of Soviet Union, they kept this idea because these connections helped them to self-organize and also build some certain kind of points of, or like acts of resistance to have their own agency in conflicts that have emerged after the collapse of Soviet Union.
Was it like a strategy in the very beginning to be autonomous from the situation around?
I guess, I mean, Soviet Union was a state that was, you know, highly depending on industrialization and resource extraction and transport. So this is why I think they have really invested a lot of energy into making railway infrastructure and life around railway infrastructure more efficient than in other sectors. How would it work? Like, do they want to have this reloading site on the Turkish side?
Yes,
yes,
because
right?
it's essentially the logistics operation through which money is made.
Also with Georgian side, is it openly discussed? Do you have information about that?
No, I don't think it's really openly discussed. I think that's part of the tensions that linger around.
I'm sure that research happened before the recent and current European war in Ukraine. But is there any influence coming from that current situation, or?
So when I started filming for this project in 2018, there was no active war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And in 2020, when I went into active phase of filming, the second Nagorno-Karabakh war happened. And this idea that I wanted to highlight, that you can use actually these infrastructures to sabotage other country, or you can use the infrastructures to secure, national sovereignty of your country, which is the case for Georgia. And it's like very complex layers of politics that is like really hard to explain in such a short time. But in the second Nagorno-Karabakh war, it became clear that the infrastructures were used as a means for warfare. And this is because in the ceasefire agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia, the opening up of the railway links was part of the agreement. So kind of the territories got negotiated with the infrastructures. So this was my main focus, and while I was already going through towards the montage of the film and like finalizing it, like Russia invaded Ukraine. And here what became very clear was this aspect of the solidarity between the railway workers that existed between different Soviet republics, still exists today, and there is this memory between the railway workers that has very technical foundation, and this memory was a foundation for the solidarity and the different kind of sabotage that was taking place on these railway links, and namely Belarusian railway workers collaborating with Ukrainian ones and sabotaging the railway links to slow down the movement of the Russian troops and weapons through Belarus to Ukraine. And this kind of acts was something that like really was building up on this idea of a possibility of having different kind of state, and in this moment of political cynicism and completely hopeless situation, that there was a possibility of different kind of infrastructural consciousness that would go against the politics of nation states and contradict them and challenge them. And I think this was something that I really wanted to focus on, rather than only this geopolitical sabotage that is quite often depressing and doesn't leave any space for thinking about the potentialities that infrastructures might have.
Железная дорога – это одно государство в государстве. У него своя связь, своя строительная организация, свои телефонные номера, отделенные от городских. У него все свое.
Აშენ სად იყო ეს საინფორმაციო ტექნოლოგიები, მაგრამ იყო კავშირი სარკინიგზო მასშტაბით. იმ დროს, ახლა 90-იანებში ხო წარმოგიდგენთ, შეგეძლო აგეღო სადღაც ზუგდიდში, რკინიგზის სადგურში ზიხარ, იღებ ხურმილს და ელაპარაკები რიგაში, მოსკოვში, რა ვიცი, სადღაც ხარკოვში, კიევში, და რკინიგზის ელაპარაკები თავისუფლად.
А что вы имеете в виду свои номера?
Вот, допустим, городские номера, у нас 5 номеров, у железнодорожной связи 4 номера.
ყველაფერი შიგნით იყო, ანუ სახელმწიფოში რატომ იყო? თავისი პროკურატურა, თავისი милиция, თავისი საკომუნიკაციო არხები.
Имели свои детские сады, школы даже в некоторых районах, больницы, офисы, магазины.
I was wondering about this metaphor of this vehicle that I get much more interest about its kind of global meaning. It's quite complex.
Mm-hmm. I'm trained in a very, classical experimental essayistic filmmaking, but I was like gradually interested in collaging the narratives and multiple voices into essay. So in this film, you don't see any faces, so you don't have talking heads, and in a way, every voice is giving a typography. They are kind of characters, railway workers, journalists, researchers, and they speak about, this project from different territories and from different perspectives. And we decided to, use all these voices to construct this one story. So I do take the responsibility for what is said in the film. I still consider it as an essayistic film, and I think that me and as well as Evelina Gambino, who worked with me on the script, we kind of say we make our own point. But we also want to give voices to all the people who are kind of working or living around these territories. And this is something that I wanted to experiment with, if there was a possibility of creating essay through collaging these multiple voices.